Monday Rashad. There's this dude named Aaron Douglas. Scratch that. There was this dude named Aaron Douglas, a painter in the time of the Harlem Renaissance. Mrs. Capperdine, my art teacher freshman year, turned me on to him during a lesson about artists from that period. Now, I had already been into art way before Mrs. Capperdine's class. I've been drawing since I was like 5 or 6. It came from hanging out with my dad after church on Sundays. Well, Spoonie and Mom would be there too, but for some reason, when I think back on it, it always seemed like it was just me and Dad. Probably because we had our own thing, our own after-church tradition. He would drive the whole family to the diner downtown. Ma would order the eggs, an English muffin, Spoonie always got the French toast, and me and Dad both got pancakes. Then Spoonie and Ma would go back and forth trading courting jokes, which I was usually all about, except on Sundays. Sundays was when I butted out and let the two of them have their dry humor because me and Dad, we had pancakes, coffee, hot chocolate for me, and the newspaper. Dad, of course, would be really reading the newspaper. Politics, current events, sports, every single story. But he'd pull the comics section out and hand it to me. As I'm sure you can tell by now, my old man doesn't do funny all that well. But me, I loved the comics. All of them. But there was one in particular that struck me more than the others. And the funny thing is, I'm not really sure why. It definitely wasn't the funny one. As a matter of fact, most times it wasn't funny at all. Not to me, at least. It was called The Family Circus. A brilliant name for a comic strip, even though the family in the comic wasn't much like a circus. They were pretty normal, and the strip wasn't really a strip. It was just one image, one scene, not like the others, which were made up of a whole bunch of different boxes, each one telling more of the story. I know you know what I mean. Everybody knows what comic strips look like, but this one, The Family Circus, was just one picture, in a circle, not even in a box like normal comics. And it was all about this normal white family, 4 kids, 2 parents, and a grandma, and nothing ever seemed to be happening. Like I remember this one where the oldest son, Billy, and his younger siblings are watching their grandmother talk on the phone, and it's just said, Grandma's phone is really old-fashioned. That's it. See? No punchline. Not funny, and if anything, it's actually pretty lame. But maybe that's why I like them. Maybe I was fascinated by the fact that it seemed like white families, at least in comics, live simple, easy lives. That, and also the images. I loved them. Loved them. And every Sunday after church, I would tear The Family Circus out to save. By the time I got to Mrs. Capperdine's class, and by the time she taught the lesson about Aaron Douglas, I had collected like 1,000 Family Circus clips. I stored them all in a shoebox under my bed and would go through them sometimes just to pick one out to copy sketch. And after a while, I got better at drawing and started making my own family cartoons in the same style. I called them the Real Family Circus, and most of them featured a cartoon version of my father shouting at a cartoon version of my brother. But when I saw Mr. Douglas's work, well, the Family Circus kind of went out the window. Aaron Douglas was doing a different thing on a whole other level. Let me describe what his work looks like. Imagine the Lion King, but all the lions are people, black people. So Simba and Mufasa are, let's say, a black king and a prince. Now imagine that you're looking at them through the thickest fog ever. So thick that you can't make out any actually feature on their bodies, but you can still see their silhouettes. So it could be any king or any prince, but you can still tell they're black. That's Aaron Douglas's work. And the first time Mrs. Capperdine showed us the slide from his series, Aspects of Negro Life, I knew the kind of art I wanted to start making. And so I did. The only difference was that I framed mine in a circle, like the Family Circus, and that's why I needed Ma to make sure she brought me my sketch pad and pencils. I woke up early, and before doing anything else, before getting up and having a morning pee or brushing my teeth or spirometering, I turned the TV on, muted it, then grabbed my stuff and started sketching on a fresh page. I wasn't sure what I was drawing. That's not true. I knew exactly what I was drawing, the only thing I could. I was going to recreate the scene, what had happened to me, what was playing constantly on the news on the page. First the outline, a teenage boy, hands up, no, erase, hands down, no, hands behind his back. Outline of a figure behind him, bigger than he is, holding him around the neck. No, not that, fist in the air. No, not that either. Hand pushing through the teenage boy's chest, a building behind him, a store, person in the doorway, cheering. After the rough outline, I started shading, which was the tricky part. See, in Aaron Douglas' work, there's always this haziness, the ghostliness to everything. But then there's also lots of light, as if light beams just break off through certain parts of the paintings. I like that. But in order for me to get that look with pencils, I have to do a lot of shading, a lot of licking my finger and smearing the pencil lead to make a lighter gray on some parts of the paper, then scratch the pencil over and over again on some other areas to make darker marks. Like I said, tricky. Clarissa came in the middle of me rubbing my wet thumb on the paper, adding a little light to a dark area. "Hey there," she said, bringing in breakfast. "How we doing?" "I'm cool," I said, smirking. Clarissa set the food down. Pancakes and fruit cocktail. She glanced at the pad, the black and gray smudges probably seeming like a crazy mess to her. Then she shot her eyes at the silent TV. "So you're an artist, huh?" she said, her focus now back on my work. "Yeah," I said. I knew it. I looked at her curiously. "Oh yeah? How did you know?" "I don't know. I could just tell." She could just tell? Yeah, right. What she really meant to say was, "I want to say something, but I don't know what to say." Instead, she followed me with, "Mind if I look?" "It's just the beginning," I prefaced, handing her the sketch pad. Clarissa, who, by the way, couldn't have been much older than Spoonie, maybe early 20s, white, freckles, bright red hair, looked at the start of my new piece. "What you gonna call it?" "Don't know yet," I said, shrugging. Sheesh, even that hurt. "Well, it looks like it's gonna be good. I mean, not good because I mean this whole thing. She went bright red, but soldiered on. I just mean it looks like it's going to be nice. Nice art," she finished, handing the pad back to me. "You've seen the news," I said, letting her off the hook. Clarissa glanced at the TV again, then back to me. She sighed. "Yeah, and I think it's bullshit." She put her hand to her mouth, probably realizing that maybe nurses shouldn't curse. Not that that was my rule, it just seemed like it was probably discussed somewhere in the training that you might want to refrain from using foul language around patients. I liked it though, and even though about responding with a "hell yeah, it's bullshit," but figured that probably would be a little too much. "I think it's just so..." Clarissa couldn't finish her statement. I nodded to let her know I understood, and that I was having just as much trouble trying to figure it all out too. But one thing we could agree on was the part about it being bullshit. To cut some of the discomfort that now surrounded us, I flipped through the pages in the sketchbook to show her some of my more finished pieces. "This is what a completed piece looks like," I said, holding the pad up. The image was of silhouettes of soldiers, maybe 20 of them in a line, marching. At the back were babies, marching, and they progressively got bigger, older, and right in the middle was the ultimate image of a strong soldier. And then they started getting smaller again, becoming a baby again. "Wow," she said. "It's beautiful. Why do you frame them in a circle like this? Why not use the whole page?" "Because, well, the circle changes how you see it. Like, what are we looking through? A telescope? A peephole? The sight of a gun?" "I see," she said. "But how come none of them have faces?" "I don't know. Maybe they're there, but they're not. Like ghosts or invisible people," I said, instantly thinking that sounded dumb, but hoping Clarissa would just think I sounded artsy. She nodded, then glanced at the TV again. It was like a magnet. My face was on the screen. "Well, listen here, Rashad, the artist," Clarissa said low. "Don't forget what I said about getting up and moving around. It's important." She wagged her finger at me playfully. "I'll come back and check on you later." I worked on the drawing for a while, until my hands started to cramp up, which is just one of those things that happen when you work with pencil. Seems like some genius would have figured out how to make pencils out of rubber or something silly softer. But even though that's probably a silly thing to even think. But when your hand starts aching in the middle of such a personal piece, there's no telling what you might think about. I put the pencil and pad down and decided to follow Clarissa's instructions and get up. But not only did I decide to get up, I decided to get the hell out of that empty, boring, beige hospital room. Room 409. I climbed out of bed, snatched the back of my robe closed, and ventured out into the wild, not so wild, world of the hospital. I hunched over like an old man, protecting, I guess, my ribs. They hurt more when I stood straight. I eased slowly down the hall, each step pricking me inside, as I looked around at the nurses and the doctors and the families standing around the beds of their loved ones in the rooms with the open doors. Phones ringing, machines beeping, doors opening and closing, soda cans dropping in vending machines, conversations about next steps and tests and surgeries. At the end of the hall was an elevator that happened to open the moment I got to it. A doctor got off, and I got on for no other reason than it was there, open, waiting for me. I hit the one button and down to the first floor I went. Once the doors opened again, I found myself in the busiest part of the building, the main floor where people were checking in, doctors and nurses zipping back and forth to the cafeteria, and most importantly, where the gift shop was. It was the only thing remotely interesting. So, Destination Gift Shop was in full effect. It didn't take long for me to realize that hospital gift shops have terrible gifts. At least that one did. I mean, really bad gifts. Oh, so sorry you're in the hospital having your legs amputated. Know what'll make you feel better? A snow globe with a unicorn in it. Oh, sorry to hear about your cancer, but I've got just the picker-upper. A refrigerator magnet of a lighthouse that says Springfield. Ain't no lighthouses in Springfield, but who cares? I poked around, looking at all the snacks. They did have good snacks. Weird doodads and whatnots, trying to make any moves that were too sudden. It was more of a step, step, step swivel. Head to the left, then to the right, repeat. Nice and easy. The woman behind the counter didn't seem to be paying any attention, and instead was flipping through the newspaper. She had to be in her 60s. I could tell. Not because she looked old, she didn't, but because she had all those little moles all over her face that only old black ladies get. My grandma had them. Can I help you? She asked, catching me off guard. I threw my hands up and backed away from the assortment of plastic flowers. Just looking, I said, wound up. She zeroed in on me, smirked. Relax, kid. I've been here long enough to know that no one steals from a hospital gift shop. And if someone did, well, hey, I can't blame him. We should be giving this stuff away. I put my hands down, embarrassed. Never apologize when there's nothing to be sorry for. She put her eyes back on the newspaper, licked her thumb, then flipped the page. I just stood there like an ass until she spoke again. But seriously, do you need anything? I almost apologized again, but caught myself, not sure why I was all sorry all of a sudden. Nope. So you just came to see me? She asked sarcastically. And before I could say no, she demanded to say yes. I nodded with a big grin on my face and walked toward the counter. Yes, followed by the truth. Honestly, I just need to get out of my room. Yeah, I hear ya. She closed the paper and extended her hand. Well, I'm Shirley Fitzgerald. Rashad. I squeezed her fingers lightly. Mrs. Fitzgerald and I talked a while, but I didn't tell her anything about why I was in the hospital, at least not the truth. I told her I got banged up in a car accident. Were you wearing your seatbelt? She asked predictably. Yep, thankfully. I felt bad lying to an old lady, but I had to. This was the most comfortable I had felt in a while. Turns out the best gift in the gift shop was the fact that it didn't have a TV. No news, no fuss. After we got through why I was in the hospital, I asked Mrs. Fitzgerald how long she'd been working there. I don't even know. Maybe 3 or 4 years, lost track. Wait, let me think. Frank died. She started running through the timeline in her head. Yeah, 4 years. Mercy, has it been that long? She put her hand to her neck and fiddled with the gold chain she was wearing. A ring dangled from it. My babies are grown, my grandbabies too, and my husband has gone on to glory, so this is how I spend my time. I volunteer here a few days a week, and on my off days, I go and volunteer down at the firehouse. What do you do down there? I fight fires. What do you think I do? She snapped. Oh, I said, stunned. She was old, like too old to be hosing down blazing houses, that's for sure. That's cool. That's a lie, baby, she said, grinning and flipping the newspaper back open, fanning through it until she got to the comics. The rest of my time with her was spent with me standing at the register and her reading funnies out loud and either bursting with laughter or totally shit-talking about how lame some of them were. Eventually, my body, waist up, started boiling on the inside, and I knew it was time to make my way back to the 4th floor. Come back and see me, Rashad. An old lady needs a little company every now and then, Mrs. Fitzgerald said. I will. Around 4 o'clock, I had visitors, but it wasn't my family this time. It was my boys. Housekeeping, a light voice came from behind the door after a tap. Housekeeping, then came the idiotic snicker of only one person, Carlos. Don't come in, I yelled. Oh, come on, Rashad. I know how much you love housekeeping, Carlos said, lowering his voice 10 notches below its normal tone. He pushed the door open, and English, Shannon, and Carlos filed in, backpacks and all. Oh, man, Shannon said, instantly becoming serious when he saw me lying in the hospital bed, my face swollen, bruised, bandaged. Dude, English came right behind him, shocked. It's nothing, I said. Nothing? Now even Carlos was serious. Come on, y'all, I've gotten it from my family already, so just chill. I'm fine, I insisted. Carlos leaned against the wall. English and Shannon took the chairs. Their eyes, caught between bad and worse, bounced from me to the TV. The Rashad show on repeat. I tried to bait them back in. Tell me about the party. Carlos was the first to bite, of course. Yo, guess who almost got some? Carlos asked, a clownish smile spreading across his face. Who, English? I replied. Carlos shot me a mean mug. Really? Really, Shad? He lowered the lids of his eyes until they were almost closed, then popped them open wide and barked, Me, man. That dog bark thing totally worked. My game was on $1,000,000, man, I swear. Who was it? Sweet Tiffany Watts. Carlos closed his eye and puckered his lips as if he was remembering some passionate kiss. I glared at Carlos. My Tiffany Watts? Yep, cartoon character looking Tiffany. Now he wrapped his arms around himself and swayed. Asshole. My heart stopped. That cop didn't kill me, but the thought of Carlos getting with Tiffany might be the fatal blow. Shannon couldn't hold it anymore and burst out laughing. Then Carlos flashed a toothy smile. Psych, man, you know I wouldn't do you like that. I know her Daffy Duck-looking ass is the love of your life, Carlos teased. When dealing with a clown like Carlos, the key is to never let him see you flustered. Never let him think you take him seriously. It's the opposite, come to think of it, of how we were trained to deal with the police. With your friends, you never put your hands up. I have to admit, though, Lois almost got me with that one. By the way, she asked about you today, Shannon said. Where would she say? Asked Eager. Just that she and a bunch of other people were thinking about coming to visit you, Shannon explained. No, I waved my hand as if I was waving off the thought of Tiffany coming. No one can come. I don't want nobody to see me like this. You sure? Shannon asked. Yeah, man. Please tell everyone I'm fine, but no visitors. I caught eyes with each of them to make sure they knew I was serious. I didn't need anybody else standing in front of me all teary-eyed or sitting on the edge of the bed feeling awkward. I had already had enough of that. When I caught Carlos's eye, he jumped right back into form. Man, can I finish my story? Damn, he said, all indignant. Yeah, go ahead, I said, trying to rush him along. So the girl I got a little closer to was, drum roll please. Come on, man, I huffed. You want to know or not? I don't really care. Just give me a drum roll, bro. I shook my head and started patting at my legs, doing my best to ignore the prickling feeling in my abdomen. Latrice Wilkes, Carlos blurted out like a dude squatting behind a couch, waiting to yell surprise to an unsuspecting birthday boy. Latrice Silky Wilkes. Now, Latrice Wilkes was no slouch. As a matter of fact, she was pretty much one of the coolest, prettiest girls in our class. And Silky really wasn't her nickname. That's just what we called her among each other, and I have no idea why. For real? I was honestly surprised. I mean, Latrice was way out of Carlos's league. Okay, well, then why was it an almost? Because then Latrice saw English, Shannon interjected with perfect timing. Whatever, it's because the cops came and messed my whole groove up, Carlos shot back. I laughed. Hard. Well, as hard as I could without feeling like my head was going to explode or my ribs were going to rip through my chest. Once I finally got it under control, I said, well, listen, if it makes you feel any better, the cops messed my groove up too. None of them laughed. Not one of them. You could almost feel the temperature of the room drop, like the way light dims whenever a cloud floats in front of the sun. I was that cloud, so I changed the subject. Anyway, what else is going on at school? Same old shit. You ain't missed much except for the fact that everybody's talking about you, Shannon explained. Yeah, you finally popular, Carlos mocked. I couldn't figure out if he was trying to bring the mood back to a lighter tone, or if he was just trying to make up for getting crushed by Shannon. Or both. This might even land you an actual date with Tiffany. Please, I don't need no broken nose to get a girl. The mere mention of it made the bandage itchy. I scratched it super gently. Take what you can get, bro. It's an easy layup, Carlos replied. Too bad you didn't have all this layup knowledge when you were trying out for the team, huh? I owed him a good one for the almost I got with Tiffany joke. Redemption. Yeah, whatever. Me and Carlos went back and forth because it's what we do, but neither one of us, our hearts were in it. The jokes lacked punch. No zing. Just flat. Like the family circus. Forget all that, man. When you getting out of here? Shannon asked. He stretched his legs, crossed them at the ankles. The doctor just left right before you got here. He said my nose and ribs are healing fine, but they're still watching me because I got some internal bleeding. He said it hasn't gotten any worse, thank God, and that after a few more days, I should be good to go. Sweet, Carlos said. Meant it. Cool, Shannon said. English didn't say nothing. He just stared at the TV like he was in a trance. English, you good? I asked. Yeah, he said, snapping out of it. I don't know, man. This is crazy. You know that's Guzzo's brother, right? Guzzo? Yeah, big, giant, goony kid on the team. His brother is the asshole who did this to you. Paul Galuzzo. That's why they call him Guzzo. Guzzo is short for Galuzzo, English explained. Wait, you tell me the ogre-looking dude on the team, that's his brother, I asked? That's exactly what I'm telling you. Has he said anything? Not that I know of. Coach Carney won't let us talk about it, English explained. Says we gotta focus on the team and our season and that's it, and to leave all this stuff at the door. Said he'd bench anybody who brought it on the court. And you can't afford to be benched, dude, especially since scouts are checking for you hard, I said. Yeah, but it's just nuts. Yo, what I want to know is, what the hell happened? Shannon jumped in. Since Carney's made it clear that I ain't allowed to ask Guzzo, let me hear your side of the story. I mean, English told us what Barry said, but I want to hear it from you. That was my cue. I knew English had already heard most of it from his sister, but I still gave the fellas the play-by-play, hoping that somewhere in it it would make sense, but it didn't. I grabbed a bag of chips, reached into my bag to grab my cell phone. A random lady tripped over me, and the next thing I know, I was getting pressed out by the officer. There really wasn't anything else to the story as far as I was concerned. The cop and the clerk thought I was stealing and wouldn't give me a chance to explain. Did you resist? Shannon asked. Why would I resist? Come on, man, you know I was shook. Ain't no way I was resisting, I said. And when he got me on the ground, that's when he really started going in. Like every time he hit me, I would move. Who wouldn't? It hurt. And then he told me to stop moving, but I couldn't help it. Shit, Carlos said, his eyes full wide. English was staring at the TV again, his face now becoming a fist, tight and angry. The room was stifling with a weird tension, this strange sadness, when finally Shannon spoke up. English. English didn't respond. English, Shannon snapped. What? He snapped back. And that's when I could tell this whole thing was getting to him. It was stirring him up inside in a way that I had never seen before. I mean, this was English Jones, the coolest dude on earth. English braced his hands on either arm of the chair, and for a second, I thought he was going to throw it. But then he drew a deep breath and simply said, We got practice. We gotta go. He looked from Shannon to me, his eyes slightly glassy. He stood up. Shannon stood with him. Yo, what we gonna do about this? Carlos asked, watching English and Shannon grab their bags. He ran his finger along his nose like he always did when he was thinking of something he probably shouldn't have been thinking of. I don't know, but I'm telling you, Coach ain't playing, Shannon said, flinging his bag up under his shoulder. Just leave it alone. No, man, we gotta do something, Shad. I mean, maybe you can't do nothing because you in here, and maybe these two can't do nothing because of punk-ass Carney, but I'm not on the team. Carlos caught my eye and stopped me from cracking a basketball joke before I could even open my mouth. So I can do something. Somebody gotta do something. Lois, don't be stupid, English warned, coming over to the bed and giving me 5. Carlos didn't respond. Instead, he just asked me if I wanted him to stay. Carlos didn't have anywhere to be. He never had anywhere to be. No, I'm cool, I said. I'm sure my parents and my crazy brother will be by here later. Word from Carlos. We'll be back tomorrow, from Shannon, reaching out for my hand. Only a nod from English, and then it was just me, the TV, and the shadows, fades, and outlines of my art again. I thought about the fact that English and Shannon wanted to do something, but were afraid to break the rules. I understood. I did. But the look on English's face was a look I had never seen. He was struggling with it all. Maybe it was what happened to me that was eating him. Or maybe it was the fact that he felt like he couldn't do anything about it. And then I thought about what kind of ridiculous plan Carlos might cook up. I just didn't want him to put himself in some stupid situation where he got his ass beat too. Even though I hadn't had to put myself in any situation for that to happen. I glanced at the TV, my face, again. Wasn't there anything else going on? I mean, there had to be something going on in the Middle East, right? Celebrity drama, anything besides me? I wasn't sure what to do about any of it, or if I even wanted anyone else to do anything on my behalf. The looks on my friends' and family's faces, it hurt me to see them that way, especially knowing that it hurt them to see me this way. I didn't deserve this. None of us did. None of us. I grabbed the remote, pointed it at the screen, and hit the power button to click it off. But it didn't go off. I clicked it again. Nothing. I slapped the remote in my palm a few times, because that's what you do to, I guess, activate the batteries. Clicked again. Nothing. Now, split screen. Galuzzo's face next to mine. Him in his uniform, me in mine. But we were not the same. We were not the same. I didn't deserve this. Click, nothing. Click, nothing. My eyes began to well up, and my throat suddenly felt scorched as if I had swallowed fire. Click, 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 nothing. Click, please, please turn off, please, his face next to mine. I didn't do nothing. I didn't do nothing. His face made my bones hurt. A scrappy feeling in the marrow stuff. Click, nothing. Click, nothing. I couldn't take it anymore. And before I did something stupid like throw the remote across the room, smash it into under a piece of plastic that I wished were Galuzzo's face, I leaped from the bed in a panic and yanked the cord from the wall, which turns out was also stupid because it felt like giant hands that I couldn't see were ripping me in half. But the TV was off. My face next to his, gone. Finally.